everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? I'm Steve Stebbing, and we are the weekly rundown of what we are watching, which may become what you're watching. And we come at you every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Chloe is off this week again. I promise you she'll be back next week. She just had a bad sleep and was feeling a bit spacey, so we can forgive her for that, for wanting her at the top of her game. We took a week off last week, so I have got some blockbusters to talk about, including a sequel that I'm sure Jason Blum wanted to be a blockbuster, but didn't exactly work out that way, as well as a couple of new 4Ks in the anniversary department of older films. Very excited to add those to my collection. All this and more, but let's just get started. That's right, fresh for your eyeballs this week, and we're kicking off with what I think is the event film of 2025, and probably one that will be in theaters throughout this entire year. This is F1. A Formula One driver comes out of retirement to mentor and team up with a younger driver, starring Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, Kerry Condon, Tobias Menzies, and Javier Bardem. Directed by Joseph Kosinski. This movie is big and beautiful in all the best possible ways. I mean, the biggest way that I could see it here in the Okanagan was in theaters, but I know this film was completely constructed in IMAX, and it feels like an IMAX. It feels big. Those cars are humming at a crazy decibel. The 4D is even probably crazy. I've never experienced that one. And I think the 4D is also that wraparound theater thing. So that's kind of cool. But this is, I mean, very much a gimmick film that was made in cooperation with F1 from the ground up. Lewis Hamilton is a big producer on this film, along with Brad Pitt. And authenticity is the key to this film. So everything on the level, as far as I know, I've had it pointed out to me that this film does do a couple what the fuck things that would never happen in a race. But still, this movie got me interested in F1, in the psychology of it. And Kosinski knows how to make like a pristine blockbuster film. I feel like with Top Gun Maverick, he really fine-tuned it, and F1 was the showcasing of these newly acquired skills, and it really pays off because every moment in F1 that the cars are giving you the action, you are entertained. And for the moments where they're out of the cars and it's Brad Pitt on screen, he is a bona fide, no doubts about it, movie star. In my generation, he's one of the originals. He's the Cary Grant of my generation. He's that indescribable man crush actor, and that's Brad Pitt. And he owns that in this film, and he knows that. And Kosinski knows how to shoot Brad Pitt because it all works out really, really well. And this is a thoroughly entertaining film that clocks way over 2 hours, but still holds you in the palm of its hand the entire time. So I really love this film. So let's get into the technical stuff of F1. Firstly, I want to say that Damson Idris's mom in this film was played by Sarah Niles, who was Ted Lasso's psychologist in the series Ted Lasso. So I really enjoy her. She actually appears in another film this week. I'll get to that in a little bit. And Shea Whigham appears in the beginning of this film, which is just another great character actor popping up in another fantastic film. And he only appears in the beginning of this film, and it's like I could always go for more Shea Whigham because just a huge fan of that character actor. The film was written by Aaron Kruger, who wrote Top Gun Maverick for Joseph Kosinski. He also wrote 3 Transformers movies. He wrote Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, and Age of Extinction. So one of the Wahlberg ones. He also wrote the remake of The Ring for Gore Verbinski, as well as The Brothers Grimm for Terry Gilliam. The score of this one, just a humming and throbbing mix of orchestra and synth. Hans Zimmer, fucking master that is Hans Zimmer, does the score for this movie, and I was just wrapped up in the music as soon as it started. It was one of the things of the film that I think is very strong. On a technical level, this is a well-oiled machine with all the right people in place, and if you have Hans Zimmer as your composer, you are doing the right things. Funny enough, this is not the first racing related Hans Zimmer film, as he also did the score for the 2013 film Rush, which was directed by Ron Howard. The film was shot by Claudio Miranda, who is Kosinski's dude. He did all of Kosinski's films. He did Oblivion, he did Tron Legacy, he did Top Gun Maverick. So he returns to do this one. He also did Life of Pi, Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So he's worked with Brad Pitt before. And he did the biopic Naiad with Annette Bening and Jodie Foster, which I really, really enjoyed. He also shot the music video for Canadian band Billy Talent. He did their Red Flag music video, and I fucking love that song, and I know Chloe does too. So seal of both of our approvals. Brad Pitt for this movie was paid $30 million. This is the biggest salary he's ever taken in his career, which is crazy that it took until now to get him a big payday. But he has long been an avid fan of auto racing. He was supposed to star alongside Tom Cruise in a film called Go Like Hell, which is the Carroll Shelby movie that eventually became Ford v Ferrari. Okay, so IMDb is saying that the film fell apart due to budget reasons, but now I'm reading that Tom Cruise fell out of love with doing this movie as soon as he realized that Carroll Shelby doesn't drive very much in this film, thus Brad Pitt wouldn't be driving along with him. So he basically was like, nah, I'm not too interested in this film anymore. And this film originally, when it was proposed, was brought forth as a sequel to Days of Thunder, which I believe is still happening. I don't know if there's an actual director behind that. The only person attached to this one besides Tom Cruise is Jerry Bruckheimer, which that's a good thing. Because I will say, seeing the Bruckheimer title card before the movie started, I felt a comfortable familiarity with that logo. So I think it also eased me into this film and set me up for a very good experience. And that's exactly what this movie is. Front to back is just a very, very fantastic experience. And the funny thing that I also wanted to talk about the Days of Thunder connection to this film is Days of Thunder, who composed the score? That's right, Hans Zimmer. So at the end of the day, well, you can come away with this review. Hans Zimmer rules. Go see F1 in theaters. I'm sure there will be a lot of opportunity to, because I don't see this movie leaving theaters for a while. I feel like it's going to make enough money to just float by till the end of the year. All right, let's move on to the aforementioned little trouble in the Blum house for Jason Blum, as he decided to make a sequel to a surprise hit, but I think he kind of forgot what made that movie a surprise hit. And it was a robot servant cunt as a killer, not as an ally. This is Megan 2. 2 years after Megan's rampage, her creator, Gemma, resorts to resurrecting her infamous creation in order to take down Amelia, the military-grade weapon who was built by a defense contractor who stole Megan's underlying tech. Starring Allison Williams, Violet McGraw, Ivana Sokno, and Jermaine Clement. Written and directed by Gerard Johnstone. So yeah, this is a weird one, to put it mildly, because the original film for Megan was a beginning of January release, I believe last year. And I think it's a film that was never expected to be as well received as it was, and to earn some semblance of cult status. Whether it was the overall bitchiness of the doll itself and how that fits into an internet obsessed modern culture, and the obsession with AI. But when I saw that they had immediately greenlit this film, which was January 18th, 2023. Okay, so it's 2 years old. But this was less than 2 weeks after the release of the first film. They greenlit a second one. I doubt that it was imagined as essentially what I came to think this film as a Terminator versus Terminator movie. I think another horror story was what the audience wanted. That's why we have such a blink and you miss it time for Megan 2.0 on the box office top 10, because this is going to sink like a stone. I was okay with the film, but I feel only because I was prepared for what it was going to be. And aside from Allison Williams' performance as Gemma, who really kind of grates on my nerves, who's constantly nagging and complaining throughout this film to a almost nauseating degree, there are certain aspects of this film that really kept me entertained. Although I don't think I will ever take this film in again. I feel like it's a one and done type of thing. I don't know how we get to a version 3 of Megan. The door is open. I doubt we're ever going to see it, because I think that there is a lot of egg on Jason Blum's face right now, because he immediately talked about it on a podcast. So that's how I feel like he has either a need to get out in front with some damage control, or that he is so severely disappointed that the think tank didn't come through with this film. But this feels like high budget, low budget. There is definitely a lot of money spent in this film, but the acting is what it is. This feels like one of those kind of middle thrillers. It still has like points where it's pushing the violence. A lot of it's cut away. So I do take issue with that. Let's get into the grass on this one with the technical stuff. Besides the fact that Tim Sharp, a usual comedic actor, is in this one as an FBI agent. And I enjoyed Tim Sharp in a lot of different projects. I think he's funny. Let's talk about the fact that Akilah Cooper, although credited for the original story, is not the writer of the screenplay. Gerard Johnstone wrote this one on his own, and I feel like Akilah Cooper maybe should have been brought in. I feel like you have to keep the complete brainchild of the original film intact, so maybe that would have kept it from veering off into a different genre. But again, I didn't mind it. It just could have been done better. The score for this one is done by Chris Bacon, who did the score for Heretic and 65. So he's worked with Beck and Woods. He's their guy, as well as Source Code for Duncan Jones, which movie I saw in theaters. And although it's not as good as Moon by any stretch of the imagination, still very much enjoyed it. He also, in the TV world, did Wednesday on Netflix, The Tick for Prime Video, and Bates Motel for A&E, which was a locally shot in BC show with Freddie Highmore and Vera Farmiga. I love Vera Farmiga. Did you know Vera Farmiga is in a metal band? I forget what they're called right now, but they're actually pretty good. The film was shot by Toby Oliver, who shot Get Out, which is an absolute favorite of mine in the horror world, and Insidious: The Last Key, as well in the horror world. And did a favorite in this household because my wife Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, which is an insane little film. It's beautiful and has a lot of great set pieces and musical numbers. So good on Toby Oliver for those films. But he also did both of the Happy Death Day movies for Christopher Landon, as well as the series Dead to Me on Netflix with Christina Applegate and Linda Cardellini. This is a fun technical thing. Of course, the body of Megan grew in between films. So to explain the growth spurt, when they rebuild Megan in this film, she asks to be taller. So that solves that plot device. I don't know, if you're a movie completionist for 2025, you'll probably see Megan 2.0, but you don't have to. At the end of the day, I was okay with it, but you don't have to be. You don't have to be okay with Megan 2.0. I mean, it's okay for you not to be okay with it. It's cool. It's cool with me. I'm not going to tell him. Anyways, let's move on to the other blockbuster, the more recent blockbuster. And this is the 7th movie in this IP, as they all try to grab that lightning in the bottle that was the 1993 film. This is Jurassic World Rebirth. 5 years post Jurassic World Dominion, an expedition braves isolated equatorial regions to extract DNA from 3 massive prehistoric creatures for a groundbreaking medical breakthrough. Starring Scarlett Johansson, Mahershala Ali, Jonathan Bailey, Rupert Friend, Manuel Garcia Rolfo, and Ed Skrein. Directed by Gareth Edwards. Yes, more Jurassic Park. And for me, it comes with so much baggage over the last 2 films because I really disliked Fallen Kingdom and was coming into Dominion with that energy and severely disliked Dominion. Like, to a crazy degree, really hated that film. I mean, it was about locusts, wasn't it? Like, really? Wasn't that movie about prehistoric locusts in the end? The human dino clone from the second film. There's just a lot of baggage. So this film is still continuing into that world and does this half erasure where 5 years into it, a lot of the dinosaur population that was re-released into the world has died off because they can't survive in the climates of this world, but a lot of them have moved to where they can survive, which is the equator. So basically, a conglomerate of all countries have come together to say that the equator is a no-go. So this opens up the story for our group of characters to go into a no human area to extract these blood samples for a medical breakthrough. And this movie, for trying to boot up a new trilogy, the 3rd trilogy within this IP, it's fine. And I think therein lies the problem. I didn't hate it outrightly as much as the last 2 films, but I felt like it was such a puff piece of a film. Again, we can't seem to create characters that we care about. We can't develop them enough to a point where we care about them. Even with a likable actress like Scarlett Johansson, even with an incredibly charismatic person like Jonathan Bailey, an actor that I'm really just beginning with between this and Wicked. And I feel like he has the ability to bring it within him, but not with this script and not with this limited focus. I feel even Gareth Edwards, who's made strong work throughout his career, Creator is a phenomenal film that I really, really liked. Rogue One is arguably the best piece of the new movies to come out. And Monsters with this audacious beginning. And, I like Godzilla, but anyways. I feel like this was just such a hollow piece of nostalgia that we were just supposed to eat up because there were similar beats that happen throughout the film. And although there were sprinkles of things that I liked more than other things, I feel like at the end of the day, this one just comes across as such a middle baseline that even though it tries to be exciting, it never is. And they even tease a big Rancor looking bigger than T-Rex, the D-Rex. And literally, I think it has 8 minutes in the film, which also includes the beginning sequence. So it's just so very lackluster. And it makes me wonder if the producers of this film are holding it back from being something better because they're very precious about the IP. That said, the film was written by David Coep, who wrote Jurassic Park, who wrote The Lost World. So they were trying to infuse it with that beginning magic. And even Coep didn't have it. He just didn't have it within him, or I don't know how much they deviated off his script, or even if he's been worn down by it and doesn't know how to repair it. The film was scored by the great Alexander Desplat, who I've talked about on this show before. He's one of the greats. Don't even need to bring up his resume because you guaranteed have liked an Alexander Desplat scored film. It was shot by John Mathieson, who is generally a Ridley guy. I think there's very few films in the last while that hasn't been shot by John Mathieson, including one of Ridley's greatest films ever, Kingdom of Heaven. He also shot The Man from U.N.C.L.E., X-Men First Class for Matthew Vaughn, and Logan for James Mangold. So he did a couple films within the X-Men universe. He also shot, because I'm a music video junkie, especially if we're talking about the 90s music videos, he shot the videos for Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box in U2's Mysterious Ways, which are two very abundantly played music videos, especially in the mid 90s. You know, honestly, at the end of this, I feel bad for Scarlett Johansson, just pertaining to the fact that she's apparently always been a huge Jurassic Park fan and was really trying to find a way into the franchise, even if she was just in one scene and was killed off by a dinosaur. She just wanted to do it. She was fighting for 10 years to get into a Jurassic Park film, and now she's got it. And presumably, if this movie makes enough money, maybe it's not the most expensive movie of the year. I already talked about that one. It's F1, which was over $300 million to make that film. So this one didn't come close to that. But if this one is successful, then I assume Zora Bennett and Jonathan Bailey's character, Dr. Henry Loomis, I'll get to that in a second, is the linchpins of this new trilogy. They're the Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard of it, I assume. So back to Jonathan Bailey being Dr. Henry Loomis, which is this obviously such a play on Dr. Samuel Loomis from Halloween. Jonathan Bailey actually also, besides being this character, contributed his clarinet playing skills to the orchestra in this film, including a very pivotal scene with this character. Actually, and I will say this, one of the more touching moments in this film. It was almost Glenn Powell in that role, though he turned down this movie because he didn't know really what he could add. He praised the script and gave love to the project, though, and I'm wondering if he really read the script, because I don't think it's that great. Jennifer Lawrence and Amanda Seyfried turned down the role of Zora Bennett, so it means if either of them had taken this movie, it would have crushed Scarlett Johansson's dreams. That's very interesting to note on that. Amanda Seyfried, they went to Amanda Seyfried before Scarlett Johansson. It's the Twin Peaks. It's the power of the Twin Peaks. It makes you a sought-after actress. It's true. David Leitch was in talks to direct this movie, but eventually turned it down because of creative differences with Universal. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the Universal Pictures and the producers and the holders, the beholders of the IP of Jurassic Park, who won't relent their grip to let an original voice come in and make something that actually might push boundaries, might think outside the box and do something just a little bit different and not lean so far into trying to do fan service, even though you don't have anyone to do the fan service with. Rupert Friend, who plays Martin Krebs, the company man in this one, and you know what happens to company man. He's the Burke in Aliens of this film. He was considered to play Duncan Kincaid in the early talks of this movie. That role eventually went to Mahershala Ali. And then Nicholas Hoult was going to play Martin Krebs instead of Rupert Friend. And then, I don't know, things didn't work. And maybe Superman got in the way of that. Who knows? Who knows? It seems that Nicholas Holt's a really, really busy dude recently. But I don't know. As a completionist, again, if you like the Jurassic Park IP, if you've enjoyed the last two films at all, then you'll enjoy this one, because I think this film is better. This film might be on par with Jurassic World. I feel like they're kind of neck and neck. It's really, who do you enjoy more, Chris Pratt or Jonathan Bailey? I would probably opt for Jonathan Bailey, especially now after the whole Chris Pratt saturation thing. So it's kind of an open-end recommendation. I was like, with this film. All right, I finally dug into one of my Blu-rays that I brought to my library. Let's talk about it. That's right, on the blue. This week is an Argentinian film that I saw the American remake for years ago and never gotten around to the original film until now. This is Nine Queens. Two con artists try to swindle a stamp collector by selling him a sheet of counterfeit rare stamps, The Nine Queens. Starring Ricardo Darin, Gaston Pauls, and Letitia Bredis. Written and directed by Fabian Belinsky. So this film was remade in 2003 as a film called Criminal. It was done by Gregory Jacobs, and it was co-written by Steven Soderbergh in the adaptation. It starred Diego Luna, John C. Reilly, and Maggie Gyllenhaal. And it's a film that it felt super indie. I think it was under the Warner's independent label. I was under that studio when it came out. So it didn't get a lot of attention because I discovered it when I was a video store clerk, and we didn't even get that many copies of it. So I felt like I was recommending our only 6 copies like all the time. And I really, really dug this film. So by extension, Nine Queens is phenomenal because it inspired the American film. The American film is just, being North American, it is easier to relate to culturally, but Nine Queens is really an immaculate film. And Fabian Belinsky, his script is so tight. His ability to con the viewer as well as telling this straightforward con story is really something to behold. And Ricardo Darin and Gaston Pauls playing off each other so brilliantly. I really, really loved their chemistry, especially the third act. I feel like the desperation that takes over in the third act is very, very interesting to unpack. And I really thought it's great to finally have this one and have it on Blu-ray, because I only have Criminal on DVD. So that was pretty funny too. But Fabian Belinsky passed away shortly after the remake came out. He died in 2006. Sorry, Criminal was actually remade in 2004. And this film, Nine Queens, is actually part of the 1001 movies you must see before you die compilation. And I would uphold that. I think if you're a film fan and this foreign film has passed you by, it came out in 2000, I think you really should find a way to check it out. And the Blu-ray presented by Sony Pictures Classics is a great way to do that, because I don't think you can stream it anywhere. I'm just going to make a check now. And it is the only way you can get it, because it is not streaming anywhere. So find the Blu-ray and you will enjoy it. Trust me. All right, let's move on to a couple films you can stream right now. That's right, the streaming pile this week. And I'm going to really stamp on that third word there, pile, because, oh my God, I was really, really duped by a brand new film on streaming this week. And I got a lot to get off my chest. So it's a sequel, and it diminishes the first film largely, in my opinion. This is The Old Guard 2. Andy leads immortal warriors against a powerful enemy threatening their group. They grapple with the resurfacing of a long-lost immortal complicating their mission to safeguard humanity. Starring Charlize Theron, Kiki Lane, Matthias Schoenaerts, Marwan Kenzari, Luca Marinelli, Veronica Nago, Henry Golding, Uma Thurman, and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Directed by Victoria Mahoney. So the first film came out, an adaptation of a comic, a graphic novel done by Greg Rucka. I've read the book and I enjoyed it quite a bit because I like Greg Rucka's writing a lot. I loved his Hulk stuff, and all of his original stuff has been really engaging. So I was excited that this was going to get a sequel. I mean, I like Matthias Schoenaerts a lot, and I was excited about the prospect as Uma Thurman coming in as an adversary. But this film is an utter mess. It has no idea what direction it's trying to go into. It diminishes any sort of character development that's going on, because by the third act of this film, I didn't care about a single character in this one. It becomes preoccupied with a convoluted way of becoming immortal, not becoming immortal, who's immortal, who lost their immortality. It is all over the place, to like a plot hole detriment. And even the third act, your big fight scene with the bride. I mean, your big enemy is Uma Thurman, who did two of the greatest action movies of the past 25 years. And really nothing. There's just really nothing going for this film. Even Chiwetel Ejiofor has absolutely nothing to work with. And this comes after I really enjoyed him in The Life of Chuck. And this movie is just a complete fart of a film. It's just a bridge to set up a third act film. Is there going to be like nonstop great story and great action in the next ones? I don't know if we're being set up for that. I don't even know if Netflix is going to go through with that route. Are enough people going to get duped by this shitty movie that we're going to get The Old Guard 3, which might guarantee that Old Guard 3 doesn't get watched? I don't know. I don't know. But this film is just all sorts of not good, and had some serious issues with this film. But, you know, it felt like a big blockbuster films on Netflix to stream. So, of course, I went ahead with it. Let's talk about some technical stuff. The score in this one was done by Ruth Barrett and Stephen Thumb. Ruth Barrett did the score for Harry Brown, which is a really kick-ass vigilante movie with Michael Caine that if you haven't seen this film, you should see that film. I have it on Blu-ray now, and I'm very happy about that. Also on television, did the score for The Decameron on Netflix, which is a weird Black Plague set show, as well as The Terminal List on Prime Video, which has a new season starting up in August, and Bodyguard with Richard Madden, which was kind of a Netflix hit at the time that it came out. Stephen Thumb is known for doing the Alejandro Aya crocodile movie Crawl, which is a favorite here on this show. And the film was also shot by Barry Ackroyd, who is the go-to guy for a few great filmmakers like Paul Greengrass, Catherine Bigelow, and the now retired, and I miss him, Ken Loach. Did all Ken Loach's films. But he also shot The Big Short for Adam McKay and Outlaw King on Netflix for David Mackenzie, the guy that did Hell or High Water. I don't know. This is not a film that I feel like is worth your time. This is the anti-recommendation right here, because I just can't, in good conscience, tell people to go forward. I might revisit that thought if they make a 3 and it's good. But 2 is just such a sloppy bridge of storytelling, and I can't in any good conscience recommend it. Let's move on to, well, something I can maybe partially recommend, half recommend. No, I'm going to go ahead and recommend it because I like a good buddy comedy, a buddy action comedy. And this one has 2 solid leads with some good charisma. This one's Heads of State. When the UK Prime Minister and UK President become the targets of a foreign adversary, they're forced to rely on one another to thwart a global conspiracy. Starring John Cena, Idris Elba, Priyanka Chopra, Carlo Gugino, Jack Quaid, Stephen Root, and Paddy Considine. Directed by Ilya Neischuler. Available on Prime Video. So Ilya Naishuller is just a punk rock pirate Russian filmmaker. He made the film Hardcore Henry, which is a first-person action film with Charlotte Copley playing multiple characters, multiple clone characters. Spoiler. And it's also a film that I know Chloe loves deep in her heart. But he also did the Bob Odenkirk action film Nobody, which is also getting a sequel this year, not directed by Ilya. But he's a pretty kick-ass action filmmaker. So that said, all of the action pieces in this film work. They're fun. They're funny a lot of the times. Some of the stuff you haven't seen before or is being used in a new and interesting way. And some of these things will also force you to go, oh, when you're watching it, because I did that more than a few times. I also laughed at a lot of the dialogue in this film. John Cena and Idris Elba have been on screen together in The Suicide Squad, but they kind of rekindled that kind of back and forth in this film as well, and I really dug it. Jack Quaid mentioned in there, I'm a huge fan of his, so when he gets a really cool action set piece midway through the film, I kind of perked up and paid attention because I love that dude, and I just love seeing him get fun and cool roles like this. And it honestly looks on the surface like a film that you would just skip by. It kind of looks like that, like when Jackie Chan and John Cena did a team up movie, or Alison Brie and John Cena, or John Cena. You're getting that. You're getting the kind of the hint, like that direct to video type of feel, because maybe the Old Guard 2 should have got that direct to video appeal, but there are theater level movies that are getting released on the streaming platform, and Heads of State is a film that could have easily played in theaters, especially when you look back at this year and you realize that a film starring Kerry Washington and Omar Sy that feel like not top billed stars in Shadow Force, and that played theaters even in the Okanagan, then why didn't Heads of State get a theatrical release? Is it just because Prime Video is protecting that? This is the other film where Sarah Niles from Ted Lasso appears in. She is the aide to the president in this film. And Charlotte Copley is in the beginning of this film, and then they kill him in like the first 4 minutes of the film. I know that's a spoiler, but it's literally the first 4 minutes of the movie. And they killed, honestly, and I love Idris Elba and I love John Cena, but the best actor in the film they killed in the beginning, in the very beginning of the film. That is disappointing. The film was written by Josh Applebaum and Andre Nemec, who are known for writing Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So they kind of revived the whole what we got in the last bit of the Mission Impossible franchise, and did it with Brad Bird, no less. They also wrote Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. So 50% there is okay. And I'm going to say it's okay because Mutant Mayhem came along later and showed that that is how you make a Turtles movie. That's how you do it. They were also the showrunners and creators of the US version of the BBC series Life on Mars. And I will tell you here, the original BBC version is far, far, far better. And they even tried to wrap everything up in the American series in one season because they got canceled. And they took the bad approach to it. They took the absolute bad approach to it. Watch the original series with John Sim and Philip Glenister on BritBox. The score for this film was done by Stephen Price, who was Edgar Wright's usual guy, as well as David Ayer's usual guy. And he did the score for Gravity. I believe he was nominated for Academy Award for that one. And Attack the Block for Joe Cornish, which is an incredible piece of British sci-fi filmmaking in the post-2000s. You got to believe in that movie. It's fantastic. So good. The film was shot by Ben Davis, who is the usual guy for Martin McDonagh. So he did Banshees of Inisherin, did 3 Billboards, did 7 Psychopaths. You get the gist. Also for Matthew Vaughn, I believe did all of Matthew Vaughn's films. So that's pretty crazy. And did Doctor Strange for Scott Derrickson, Guardians of the Galaxy for James Gunn, and The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel for John Madden. I think he also did The Debt for John Madden as well. And funny enough, at 36 minutes into this movie, John Cena mentions getting Bin Laden. And it's funny and ironic because John Cena actually announced the death of Osama Bin Laden live on the 2011 Extreme Rules pay-per-view, which as a wrestling fan is just, I don't know, self-flagellation to bring wrestling stuff to this podcast. So I apologize, but don't apologize. That's right. Sorry, not sorry for the WWE stuff. But if you're looking for something entertaining to just kill an hour and 40 and you like a good action movie, you can't really go wrong with Heads of State. I think it is a fun gamble that pays off in the end and may have set itself up for a sequel. I'm not too sure on that. The 4K things I added to my library. I want to talk about it. That's right. New to my library, I have one of the pillars, the creation of the buddy cop comedy action films on 4K. Thanks to Warner Brothers, Lethal Weapon 4K. Yes, we're not super pumped about Mel Gibson in our current reality that we're living, but the time that this movie came back with his glorious mullet, Martin Riggs' suicidal nature touched our hearts. He lived in a trailer on the beach. And Murtaugh was just too old for this shit. Always. Even when he was 35 years old, which I think Danny Glover was at that time. Gary Busey is your bad guy. There's so much good stuff going on. Dick Donner made this movie. Dick Donner was a god of filmmaking and was an undeniable piece of my movie upbringing. So this 4K celebrates that and such and has a pretty extensive Dick Donner featurette for you to take in, which is exciting for me. Also, Shane Black wrote this movie and it is such a tight script. And again, the template for everything to come. There's so much to come, and a lot of it was inspired by Lethal Weapon. Also hitting my shelves this week is the 40th anniversary 4K of St. Elmo's Fire, a ridiculous cast in this movie. I mean, this is one of the Brat Pack movies, so it's really interesting to get this 4K Blu-ray, as just months ago I watched Andrew McCarthy's very, I assume, cathartic documentary Brats on Disney Plus, where it was him and the rest of the Brat Pack kind of unpacking that phenomenon and that experience decades later. So now in a revamped edition to retake that in, very, very exciting. So like I said, 2 huge anniversary 4Ks this week. The one that really amps me up for St. Elmo's Fire 4K is there is this Joel Schumacher commentary on this one. Of course, we lost Joel Schumacher a handful of years ago, an absolute legend in his own way, who has made some good and bad films, but I appreciated him a lot as a filmmaker, so definitely interested in that, and to see young Demi Moore and Rob Lowe and Emilio Estevez and all those pretty people. But we're almost ready to get out of here, but I have a few reminders to leave you with first. That's right. This week on 4K, I have my copy. It is Sinners from Ryan Coogler, featuring a double shot of performances from Michael B. Jordan, as well as a hell of a game and fantastic cast, including a villainous Jack O'Connell. This movie is from dusk till dawn in a whole new way, and I loved every second of it. It is really, really well done. I reviewed it on the April 25th episode, and I'll be digging at Chloe next week to see if she's seen this one yet. Also, Until Dawn is now on 4K. I reviewed it on the May 2nd episode, not having played the video games at all, and came out okay on the other side of it. Chloe, I know, has a review for it, and we'll talk to her next week about it. Death of a Unicorn, something I was looking forward to with Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. We reviewed it on the April 4th episode, both Chloe and I, and we did not come off very well on it. I will say, though, that the Death of a Unicorn release is a A24 store digipack, and it is beautiful enough that I think I want it, even though I didn't enjoy the film. But that's just part of my collector's disease. So it is what it is. Finally, on Blu-ray, Finn Wolfhard's directorial debut, Hell of a Summer, a film that I was not too keen on, but Chloe gave the benefit of the doubt. We both reviewed it on the June 6th episode. So for all of those reminders this week, you can go back and listen to those reviews for our thoughts in full. But what's going to go on next week? Well, I'm finally going to get to see James Gunn's Superman. I'm recording this the Tuesday before release, and it's been a rocky road because the first review I saw, I think, was from the Daily Mail, and they basically ripped it apart. But before doing this podcast, I looked at the tomato meter, and it's 87% fresh, and a lot of the reviewers that I like have given it a good review. So I am optimistic heading into it. Also, given the fact that I have not hated a James Gunn film yet. So he has a really good track record in my point of view. Also, Nacho Vigalondo has a new film out with Henry Golding, hopefully to redeem him from doing that terrible Old Guard 2. I'm not going to get back into that again, but he's got a new film, Daniela Forever, that looks like kind of sci-fi rom-com something. So I don't know. I'm into it. Colossal's a weird movie, so I'm definitely into it. I didn't get to 40 Acres, but I will because it's Canadian and I have to appease the gods and the king of Canadian cinema. And also, Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. I will eventually get to that one. And you also guessed the other one. I still haven't seen it yet. The Ballad of Wallace Island. You two, you're sitting on my shelf. I'm going to get to it. They're sitting right there, needing to be looked at, and they will be reviewed on a later episode. But until then, you can find me on any social media. Just type in @TheSteve'lDead and you'll find me there. Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and Blue Sky. You can find Chloe on Letterboxd @HoneyBunChloe. All of these episodes are on stevestebbing.ca as well as the YouTube channel. Just search Steve Stebbing or The Steve'ldead, and we're on shiftheads.ca. You can also check me out every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Shane Hewitt and the Night Shift on Toronto's News Talk 1010, found on the iHeartRadio network. You can also get it in podcast form wherever you download your podcasts. Well, that empties out our list for this week. So until next week, bye-bye.